There we are. Hello, folks. I do apologise for being 5 minutes late with this latest live broadcast from Pathlight Thrive Hive. So welcome if you're joining us live in the Facebook group, and welcome if you're watching on the replay, or you may be watching on YouTube as well. So welcome wherever you are. So for those who don't know me, I'm Paul. My name's Paul Wolstenholme. I'm a psychotherapist in training and a mental health first aid instructor, and I also do coaching for individuals and families and workplace wellbeing programs. So that's me. And tonight we have a special guest. This is it's Kate Week on Pathlight Thrive Hive, because we've got Kate Windebank this evening, and then on Thursday evening we've got Kate Sassanelli. So two Kates to look forward to sharing their experience and wisdom with us this week. So today, Kate Windebank is returning to the Hive. She last appeared, gosh, it must be nearly a year ago, maybe 10 months ago. And Kate is an NLP coach. She is a 3 principles practitioner, founder of OptimumYou, and also the Mindless Full Club. She's a hypnotherapist and a mind-body healing practitioner. So many strings to Kate's bow. And I was chatting with Kate last week, and we had a really good talk about the route out of lockdown, because the Prime Minister's announcement had just been made last week about the stages of coming out of this lockdown and getting back to, I hesitate to say, normality. But we had a really good chat, and I thought this would be the kind of thing that would be useful for the Hive. So here we are, and Kate is going to join us in a moment to talk about coping and navigating our way out of lockdown and the challenges we may face. We can have a look at how the past year has affected us with this pandemic, what the future might hold for us, and our relationships and our emotions, our behaviours and our mental health, and all of that and more. So if you have any questions as we go through, do feel free to just pop them in the comments box. We won't be able to know what your name is unless you've gone to this little link here, streamyard.com/Facebook. You can go there now if you want and just give StreamYard permission to share your name with us and your little profile photo as well, if you like. Otherwise, you can just remain anonymous to us with your comments, or you could just type in your name before any comments or questions you have, whatever you feel. So feel free to get involved. So just before we bring Kate in, if you are enjoying Pathlight Thrive Hive, if you're finding some benefits from the group, you might want to support us financially. And you can do that by going to buymeacoffee.com/thrivehive. And you can either just drop me a virtual coffee for £3 or any multiple thereof, or you can subscribe for £7 a month, which gets you access to various benefits, which are all detailed on buymeacoffee.com, discounts off mental health first aid courses and such like. And also, if you feel you're benefiting here and you might feel there are other people in your network who could learn, grow, be inspired, or connect with others in this lovely space, then feel free to share the network with your friends, family, Facebook group, whoever you want to bring in. Just feel free to share and invite them in. The more the merrier. Okay, so let's bring Kate into the studio. And like I say, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments, and hopefully Kate will field them as we go through this evening. So here we are. Kate, welcome back to Pathlight Thrive Hive, and thank you for being here.
Good evening, Paul. I cannot believe it's been almost a year. Has it really?
I think it must be about 10 months, because I think the last time we talked, we were in the first lockdown, if I remember rightly.
Right. Grief. It doesn't seem that long ago, I must say.
I may be mistaken. Of course, that's always a possibility.
No doubt that.
But time, I don't know about you, Kate, but for me, time has taken on quite a strange way since the whole pandemic started. Some of it seems to be speeding up, some of it slowing down, so my sense of time's gone a bit haywire.
Yeah, I was only saying, I think, to the neighbours the other day, I seem to be putting the bins out every other day. It just It's crazy. The time has just flown by. Very odd.
Yeah, it is. It's a very odd time for all of us. So, Kate, for those who don't know you or didn't see your last chat, would you like to just give a brief introduction to you and what you do and what your passions are, if you don't mind?
I'd like to. I think you gave me quite a good introduction in terms of what I do for work or my calling, whatever you want to say. But so I'm basically now involved in sort of mind body healing and coaching. I kind of embrace that full on and try lots of different things. But I've obviously known you, Paul, haven't I, for quite some time. Based over in Manchester. But yeah, and for who am I as an individual? Probably somebody who's a little bit quirky, to be honest. There's something new I'll try. I'm working on crystals at the minute and find them very, very fascinating. So, in a couple of months, get my earthing shoes out for a good walk. So, I embrace all sorts of alternative healings. If there's something if there's something out there that I read, I think, well, I'll give that a go.
Yeah, you strike me as somebody who's always learning, always open to discovering new ways of learning and healing and developing yourself.
Yeah, well, I just find the more we know, the more we read, the more I realise I really don't know anything. It just opens up everything you read, every modality you look into, whatever, it kind of opens up another door. But it also shows you the link between them all. See the same thing from another perspective, which is what I find fascinating, which I'm sure you do as well, though.
Yeah, that resonates with me, Kate. There's so much wisdom, much of it ancient, and very often it's either repackaged or just told from a different perspective. Every different modality, book, podcast, whatever it is. I'm not saying it recycles the same stuff, but I think certain things resonate with people at certain times in different ways. So, like for example, the crystal healing that you've come to recently, that's it's not new, but it's new to you, and you're finding ways of building that into your wellness routine.
Yeah, and it's surprising because some of the things that you really. When was I was taking my mind body certificate? Must have been a couple of years back, and part of that was the Bach's flower remedies. And you actually had to make a flower remedy. And I remember thinking, oh no, it's really not for me. But as I was going through the process, I realised, okay, there's quite a lot of therapy actually in just preparing it, let alone actually taking it. So yeah, all of those. I now will never sort of say I'm not going to do that, or I just think, I'll give it a go. We'll see.
Open to all things. It's a good way to be.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So the other question that I asked you last time is, how are you coping with this whole pandemic situation? So I don't know if you can sum up the past year or just how you're feeling now with
Wow.
how it's been for you.
Well, I would say horrendous, beautiful, lonely, disturbing, eye-opening. I would just say probably every emotion you could go through, I've gone through. I think it's been a real challenge, and this isn't just for me. I think this is probably for most people. It's basically challenged how you behave as human. I think the first thing of that is out walking, when we had to then start sort of crossing the road and avoiding people. And that I found deeply disturbing. I knew you had to do it, fine, but I found it really difficult. And now you do it without even thinking about it. And that's a problem, as I see, because we've kind of got used to that way of working. And I think one of the things that, you know, still when you're kind of out, you know, I miss the chance encounters you have with people, you know, those brief chats and things, you know, in coffee shops, but also in the supermarket. And of course, now with face coverings on, you just don't have that. You have the eye contact, but you don't smile, you don't talk, because it's no point, because nobody can hear you anyway. And actually, some people aren't comfortable with you talking. It's kind of go in, be as quiet. As probably what sparked our conversation is how we kind of all transition back into being human again, from being, it is quite inhumane what we're doing. It's for a humane reason, but it goes against our basic coding as a human being. And I know, Paul, you know this, but I'll just share for those people listening. On New Year's, I always record the fireworks because I go to bed quite early. And I thought, well, this year, so I recorded them, watched them the next day after, I can't remember. And literally, as soon as I turned it on and I saw the lights, I started sobbing uncontrollably. And I was absolutely fine. But it was as soon as I watched them, I just burst into tears, and I didn't stop for about 5 minutes. Literally, it was gut-wrenching sobbing. And I know that's part of the release, that's part of a build-up of emotion that's been there unawares. And I can kind of see that in a couple of months, we're going to have people doing that in a lot of different places, because it's that kind of release, that kind of letting go, I guess, where people have been sort of holding in. And I hear a lot of people saying, you know, that they've found this uncomfortable, or they're really upset about that. But it's, you know, everybody's in the same boat, and that's something we've just got to do. And, you know, I'm kind of saying, but everybody's not you. It's your experience, and that's the only thing. Whether we're doing it because everyone else is doing it doesn't really matter. We've got to start thinking about ourselves and thinking about how we interact, and not preempting what our response is going to be, but accepting the fact that we are still going through an incredibly traumatic experience. And, you know, in a couple of months, we're going to have a lot of people coming out of a very traumatic experience, and we all know what that means. And that's going to show up in a lot of different ways. So yeah, to answer your question, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, I would say, but great. You make the best of it, don't you? But it's not been particularly humane.
Yeah. So yeah, I can share many of those reactions and emotions myself, Kate. As you know, that some of the words you said there, it's been horrendous and beautiful and challenging and eye-opening. So it is, you know, incredibly challenging for everybody, because it is so unnatural, so unprecedented. I know that word's been bandied about, but the thing that you said there about crossing the street to avoid people, and we started doing that consciously, and now we're almost doing it unconsciously, because we're seeing other people as a danger. And that, as you said, is the risk. That's the problem, because it's how do we then reconnect? How do we stop seeing each other as a danger, and how do we reintegrate into being together, being in society again? Do you have any thoughts on how we do that?
Well, it's how do we do it, and how do we help our children as well? And I think when we are reintegrating, when restrictions are lifted, I think we need to be very mindful of the fact that some people are still not going to want to be around other people. They're not going to be comfortable with it. And I think what we need to be is just very, very aware of other people's feelings and other people's fears, actually. Because let's face it, it's fear. It's fear of what might happen, if somebody catches it or, gets too close to somebody. So I think just being very aware of that, and I think start talking to children, definitely, to help them understand, because I noticed some quite severe changes even in my dog because of the whole crossing the road business. So what's that said to children? So I think start talking about it is the best way. Start thinking about what you're comfortable with in a social setting, what you're going to be comfortable with if you're out and you see one of your friends coming towards you. I'm certainly going to have a phrase that I use or something to be able to say to somebody, or not. I might be absolutely fine. This is the thing. I've still got to think about how I'll be, what I'm comfortable with. But to sort of say, I've not progressed to hugging yet, or just something you can say, because I think one of the worst things we can potentially do is, as we're coming out of this and the restrictions are lifted and somebody is coming up to us and probably to embrace or whatever, and for us to pull away, that would be really quite bad for the other person. So I think to be as upfront as we can, and to say as soon as we see somebody, oh, I really wish I could hug, but I'm not, or, just so people don't get that rejection. And I think we're going to have family parties and things, and you're probably going to have a percentage of people who want to be there but want to keep their distance. So I think just being mindful of that. I mean, from a business perspective, it's a whole new ball game there, because you've got people coming back from furlough and all sorts of different variables. But I think for us, from a community, family perspective, it's going to be have an awareness of that and be respectful, I think, of other people.
And that all starts, as you say, with talking about it, but also having an awareness ourselves of what we're comfortable with, being able to communicate that in a compassionate but boundaried way.
Yes.
I think it's all about permission, really. And as you were saying that, Kate, around, some people want to hug, others will not be comfortable with that. And I suppose in the past we've taken it for granted that you go to a family gathering, hugs will happen, but we need permission, don't we? And maybe we needed permission before and it just wasn't, maybe it was tacitly given, but now we need to actually proactively seek permission and give permission around what we're comfortable with and the people around us are comfortable with.
Yeah. So and that's brilliant what you say, because it would be nice if anyone we go up to, we say, are you all right with a hug or not? Because I won't be offended either way. That would put somebody at ease, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could all walk around with signs around our neck saying, I'm a hugger, or please keep your distance.
Yeah, touchable and untouchable.
And you talked about your dog there, Kate, and we mentioned that last week as well, didn't we, around how your dog has changed. Yeah, it picks up on the energy. We're all connected. We all sense danger, and the message that your dog is getting from crossing the street whenever you see somebody else is that there's danger there. And I think you said that your dog's become more aggressive because of this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he did. I noticed it about, I don't know, 2 months in maybe. And I thought, this this has got to stop. But of course, you know, you don't have people in the house either, so no visitors coming in, so which is even worse. So yeah, I addressed that straight away as soon as I noticed it. But I think you notice it. I noticed it with him. He's a very vocal little dog, so it's easy to spot. But it's, you know, with other people, with children or teenagers, with anybody really, you know, if you're not spotting those signs, that's something that's building up and building up. And is that distrust? And fear, I think, is probably the biggest thing we're seeing. Real fear.
Yeah, and fear can manifest in lots of different ways. So it can come out as anger. So that maybe the aggression that you noticed in your dog might translate into some humans as we start to reintegrate, and that fear could manifest as anger and separation, othering people, and that could lead to quite a difficult situation in various contexts.
Yeah, and I think particularly if you've got somebody who isn't used to sort of sharing their emotions or talking about how they feel, which quite a lot of people, I would say, that come under that umbrella. If they feel kind of pressurized, let's say we've got a family party coming up and you've got, you know, husband and wife or a family, one like really wants to go and the other one is actually quite fearful of going, but doesn't want to say so. So then starts getting angry, which is what you're saying, or, you know, quite sort of sharp and whatever, because they don't want to go, and they're coming up with different excuses and, you know, picking a fight. So rather than actually address, actually, I'm frightened of mixing with people yet, or I don't want to mix with people yet. You know, some people aren't going to be that honest. So I think for us, that awareness is to try and see that in somebody's eyes. You know, if somebody does start behaving out of character, just ask, you know, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Certainly where it's mixing, I think, sort of say we don't have to go if you're not comfortable. Awareness, compassion.
Yes, so trying to remove ourselves from our own situation and have that empathy and compassion for the people around us, and try and ask that question, as you say, you know, what's really going on here? Is there some fear? Is there something you're not saying in order to keep the peace, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier on, Kate, that we don't just have to do this for ourselves, we have to do it for our children. So we have to model this behaviour for our children. We have to talk to them to explore their feelings and normalise and validate those. And a lot of children, if not all of them actually, I think are going back to school next week. And there will be mixed feelings about that from the children and also the parents around, is it safe? You know, how is it going to be? It's going to feel different. It will feel strange. You know, they have to wear masks indoors, I believe, and they're not allowed to touch at all. And I imagine they'll be wanting to hug each other. They've not seen each other for months. So do you have any tips around how to navigate that situation for the children and for the parents as well? Maybe the teachers too.
Yeah, I think, I mean, what strikes me straight off is you know, I don't think primary school children are included in that, are they? I think it's the secondary school children, and what an age. You know, I think, you know, for the girls, from a vanity point of view, sorry to use the word, but, you know, I remember what I was like when I was sort of 13, 14, and, you know, having to wear a face covering all day. Not, I can't imagine what it's going to be like for them. It's bad enough wearing it in the supermarket for sort of 20 minutes, but having to wear it all day, you know, when you want to be there and talking with your friends, and Well, one thing, the only thing really just is to talk about it, and it is a shared experience with everybody. But the thing is, there's nothing. It is they're going to have to wear them for a time. I don't know how long. Have they said how long they think it might be?
I don't know.
No, because I think that's, to me, that's a really big issue. And I think it's a real shame.
It is, yeah. And again, it's that balance between safety for the public good, but also the impact it's having on the individuals and collectively. It's a tricky time. You know, my daughter's doing her GCSEs this year, however they will look, and she's looking forward to a prom if that can happen. You know, so there's all these rituals. We've kind of partly missed out on Christmas rituals. We've not been able to get together as families very much. You've just had one yourself where you celebrated alone, and I think you said you didn't really see anyone apart from walking when you were out walking the dog. So the impact of missing out on these rituals, or potentially missing out, could be really long lasting, I feel.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's like anything in life, isn't it? We can put a positive spin on it or a negative spin. You've got to think which is the best one to do. And so to actually, I think, prime the children with a message of hope, or to put a good spin on it, or a bit of distraction never goes amiss, does it? For, you know, to focus them on something else. But yeah, you're right. There's going to be big milestones, and I think all of the children who left primary school but didn't have a sort of a leaving day or whatever, you know, but we could then be focusing on, you know, when they're coming back into school and all of those other markers. But yeah, very, very difficult times.
It is, I think, about being gentle and having that balance of listening, offering positivity and hope, but also really listening to and validating those concerns and not pushing it under the carpet and saying, oh, well, at least you've got this. You might have missed out on this, but at least there's this to look forward to. It's good to honour the losses, I think.
Yeah, because they're all, like you say, they're all markers, but I suppose it's the way we look back at life, isn't it? And we have those markers to then reflect on. So I guess if we know that that's not going to be a great one, create a different one instead. Create something else. Because we know what's happening and we know what's going to be missed. So if we can do something else that's, I suppose, equally as different, get creative, I think. Trying to think what to do instead of a prom.
Yeah, and for some people it might be about delaying things. So, you know, if you had a birthday or a celebration that you haven't been able to celebrate, you could say, right, do you know what? I'm going to have it in 6 months' time, or I'm going to have a double big party next year. Finding ways. For me, that's been a big part of the past year for me, is rather than focusing on what I've not been able to do, I've been focusing on what we can do. And like yourself, I've gone inside and done a lot of inner work and explored different avenues, tried out some new things, and it has been pretty much what you said at the beginning, Kate. You know, it's been wonderful and beautiful in some ways, but also incredibly challenging in other ways. So you mentioned work earlier on, Kate, and a lot of people, I imagine, over the course of the next month or two will be returning to the workplace, whether they've been working from home or they've been furloughed. So what can employers do and what can employees do to smooth that transition, do you feel?
Wow, there's a long list in there. All of the above that we've talked about, definitely. But also to have an awareness of the differentiation that's happened, because there's been some that have been on full furlough, some that have been on flexible furlough. So just how do they feel about that? This comes down to the sort of how equal people feel. How come I was on full furlough and they were flexied? Are they more important than I am? If they were, you've got all of that dynamic. Then you've got where people are sitting. People are comfortable with the space. One would assume there's going to be regulations about that. I don't know. So yeah, I guess all those physical elements to look at. But you've got several. I've made a few different notes here. Yeah. See, whilst working from home, I think has been very difficult for some people. I think people have now got into a different way of working and operating. So those people that have been working from home, let's take them as an instance. So they've been having lunches at home. They've been having a lot of family time. They haven't had to have the commute. So you could say once people start commuting, they could become less effective, because the time, I know a lot of people, I mean, I've worked from home for almost 20 years now, and you start earlier because you don't have that commute unless you're going to meetings or whatever. So you can be at your desk working at 7:30 or whatever, rather than on the commute, coming into the office, getting your coat off, getting at your desk till 8:15 or whatever. So you've lost that time that you have. So depending on what sort of routine people have set up, that's going to be a difference. And then the stress of a commute as well. Some people will be driving, some people might be on public transport. I would imagine some people might feel a little bit uncomfortable being in close proximity with other people, potentially. So you might have somebody turning up to work completely stressed because they had to be on a train with, and heaven forbid, if somebody was coughing. It's going to take a while for people to kind of reacclimatize, because we've spent a whole year being told that you've got to avoid other people. And so you can't just put everybody back in and think it's going to be okay, because it's not. But let's just take that person working from home. You would probably think as well they've been eating quite healthily, maybe working from home. Maybe salads and things like that, which they won't have when they're back at work. Maybe they'll be grabbing snacks or whatever. So then you might have sort of health issues, or people who feel a little bit sluggish because they're changing what they're eating. So there's so many different factors, because it's quite a long time, isn't it? A whole year of a different way of working.
Mm.
And as well, I know, because I know myself, when I used to go into the office, as much as it was lovely to see everyone, see my team, it was quite challenging in a way, because I knew I wouldn't get through the workload. So I knew when I was down in Surrey for like 3 days every month, which I used to do, I wouldn't achieve much in terms of my work agenda, but I would in terms of interactions with people and getting things sorted and problem solving and all that kind of thing. Because when you're in an office, there's a lot of interruptions and what have you. So, and again, people potentially haven't had that for a year. So it's going to be a period of adjustment of a few months, I would think. And I would hope a lot of companies are going to be mindful of that, really.
Yeah, so I think again it's about communication and accepting that different people are going to be in different positions at different times as regards what they're comfortable with, and some people might not choose to go back to the office or only go in 1 or 2 days a week. And I know a lot of people have taken this past year to really re-examine what's important to them, and whether it's family time or changing their career or spending more time doing voluntary work, that sort of stuff. So that's, for me, is another of the positive things that has come out of the pandemic, is that people are actually questioning, hang on, why was I spending an hour and a half commuting every day to go to a job that I didn't actually enjoy? And there'll be some changes there as people transition into new careers or new ways of working, or even staying at home, perhaps with their children if they have any.
Yeah, which would be lovely. And I'm hoping that so many businesses, because they've been able to operate successfully with their teams, being situated remotely, that they won't go back to it. But you also need that camaraderie, and you also need that team spirit and people together, and it's not the same over Zoom calls or whatever. It just isn't. And then you've got the other side of the fence, I'm sure, of those people who can't wait to get back in the office. It's all those different dynamics, but I think we will see quite a few career moves. I think, well, we've seen quite a few already, I think, but I think there will be quite a few. And you then got the other side, haven't you, from whilst homeschooling has not been easy for people at all, there has been that time with the children, and it's going to be quite marked, actually. Once mum and dad or whatever are out early in the morning and not back till sort of 6, half 6, that's going to seem like a long time to a child who's used to being there, as soon as they finish schooling. So yeah, lots of adjustments.
It is, and for me, there's bound to be grief around those adjustments, because grief can occur with any loss. So if we've lost a career, or we've lost a lifestyle, or lost our youth, or whatever it is, that's lost our freedom. All those adjustments that you spoke of, Kate, could come with difficulties surrounding people's emotions and the grief of, but I've been having my lunch with my parents every day, or I've been able to go out and play every day, and my parents are here as soon as I get home from school, because school is my bedroom. So that's going to be another thing for everyone to be aware of, I think, and just to talk that through, perhaps in a preparatory way before it happens, but also as it's happening.
Yeah. It's all communication, isn't it?
It is.
One of the things I'm kind of I'll say it. I wonder how it's going to be for people who've been on furlough to go back to full-time work and potentially almost the same money. I just don't know what that's going to be like for people. I really don't. I think for me, that's the one biggie that I think I don't know how I'd deal with that. I don't know how I'd feel about that, should we say? Because I think there's probably a lot of people who really want to get back to work. I'm sure everybody does. But deep down, psychologically, I don't know. I think that's going to be tough. I think it's going to be very difficult if somebody hasn't been working full time for a year to then suddenly be working full time and going in the office. I think that's perhaps a bit too much. So are we going to need to have a sort of a transition period for those people who've been on furlough, so they come in for 2 full days a week or work for 2 full days a week and then 3? I think it'd be too much. It's the one thing I keep thinking about, and I'm thinking that's going to have that'll be really difficult. Can you imagine being on holiday for a year? And I know it's not been a holiday for most people. They've had to be decorating and doing all sorts, but yeah, I just don't. I think that's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kate. And I'm thinking of when people have been off work ill with a physical or mental illness, very often they will return to work in a phased manner. So they'll start off 1 day a week and then 2 days a week. And I think that would be a really good approach for a lot of people to manage that transition, because I think many of us have found new hobbies and things to occupy us, allotments, decorating, as you said, playing with the children, homeschooling, and just to drop all of that and go back to full-time work, that, as you say, psychologically difficult, but energy-wise as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And and their brain will have rewired itself, as we know. So it's gonna take a while to build back those neural pathways that they need to get on with their job. So it's actually going to be really tiring. You remember, if you've had a whole day of training, or even a half a day of training, it is exhausting because it's all new content. You're learning new things, or you're retraining in something, and just refreshing. But it's still tiring. So yeah, let's hope that a lot of businesses will realise that and have some transition programs in place, and something to help people, to let people know it's okay. Because I think if people start getting kind of stressed and worried and thinking, oh, I can't do this anymore, I just can't process stuff like I used to, they need to know that's okay, that's perfectly normal. The only way you can get that back is repetition. Be patient with yourself. But I think you'd get quite concerned if you didn't know that was how it was going to be.
Yeah, so again, it's about that mindful awareness, compassion, communication, patience from the employers and the employees, and just normalizing it, making it okay to speak about these things. So earlier on, Kate, you said that the impact of everything that's happened, all of the restrictions and the fear, the anxiety, the separation and isolation that many of us have experienced over the past year, there's going to be a fallout from that. So we've talked kind of relationally and emotionally what that might be like. Do you have any thoughts on what might happen as regards the nation's mental health going forward?
Time bomb springs to mind. I think if what we've been doing has been so incredibly stressful, whether we're aware of it or not, I see people kind of swallowing it down, saying it's okay. But everyone's got this, we're all in the same boat. We're all in this together. But that's not the case. It's a separate experience for each and every one of us. And I think if we're not accepting that and not looking at that and not being honest with ourselves, then we're bottling up a lot of emotion that is going to come out, or is going to start manifesting within us. So we need to find a way to get that out, a bit like me with the fireworks. There was nothing conscious in that at all. I sat down quite happily with a cup of tea and a piece of cake to enjoy the fireworks and bawled my eyes out. But I didn't even blink about that. I just knew that was grief, trauma, whatever it was coming out. And I was like, oh, better out than in. Great. Whereas I would imagine that someone else might actually get quite worried about that, or kind of swallow it down, starting to tear up a little bit and then think, oh, don't be so daft, pull yourself together, which is the worst thing you can do. Just let it go. I would like to see a movement where we all start, expressing ourselves and being honest. So yeah, I think for me, I see when the restrictions are lifted, people are going to start blowing a gasket. Because I think there's going to be so much trauma and stress that people aren't even consciously aware of that is going to come out. And as soon as you lift off that veil of restriction, I think a lot of people are going to start falling to pieces, to be honest. Perhaps not the right terminology to use, but that's what I can sense.
It's all going to come out one way or another. And I think there has been a case of the British stiff upper lip over the past year, the blitz spirit, and we'll plough on through. And from the people I've spoken to in my networks, there's been a huge amount of anxiety, a huge amount of fear, but just kind of, right, we're going to soldier on. And it's just this last lockdown, this winter lockdown, has been very, very challenging for people. For whatever reason, whether it's because it's another one or because the weather hasn't been as warm. It's been very challenging, but people are just kind of sucking it up. And for me, when we don't express, as you say, it will manifest in another way, whether that's physical illness or mental illness. So we need to speak about it. We need to have those support networks as well, whether it's counsellors or people at work or friends, to just really be honest about what our experience has been and let it out.
Yeah, and it's honest, isn't it? It is honesty. And I think sometimes people feel embarrassed about saying how they feel, or they feel, I don't know, that that because the whole nation has had to go through the lockdown or whatever, that they can't relate it to them as a personal experience. But it can't be anything other than a personal experience. I was speaking to somebody and I said to her, how's it been for you? And they said, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. But then it's the same for everybody, isn't it? So that's, I was like, but you're not everybody. You haven't seen your grandchildren. You haven't seen your son. That's, just accept that. And I can see a lot of these barriers and blockages. And I think, yeah, but it's not the British way, is it? As you say. But yeah, for anyone listening, I think to start to consider how you feel about it personally. Write it down, draw a picture of it, anything, but get it out, express. Don't censor it at all. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks or what anyone thinks is politically correct, or it doesn't matter. Just be honest, be truthful, and get it out, because it's going to come out anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the last interview I did on the Hive I said one such way of expressing is just to go into a forest and do a primal scream, and as long as we're sure there's no one around who's going to be traumatized or calling the police on us, then that's a good thing to do, is scream, beat a pillow, as you say, write about it, or talk to someone who can hold that, whether it's a professional or a good friend. Just get it out.
Yeah, get a whole box, loads of cardboard Amazon boxes or whatever you want, put them all out in the garden and bash them with a tennis racket, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, and then say how you feel.
Okay,
I like
sorry, I missed that, Kate.
I like the scream.
The scream's good, yeah. Or just crying. Just allowing yourself to cry. Again, it's not very British, is it? Especially for men, stereotypically, we don't cry. It's a sign of weakness, apparently. But tears can be very healing. And I think it is, we probably all need a really good cry and a really good hug and a really good dance, and to see everybody again and enjoy live music and all of those things we've been missing.
Yeah.
So one final question, Kate, is we have this route map out of lockdown now, which is a kind of aspirational, some aspirational dates of when things will gradually return or the restriction will remove. If that does happen, then that brings people hope. It feels like we're getting back to normal, whatever normal is. If it doesn't happen and the goalposts shift again for whatever reason, another variant, or the numbers end up going up again, that could have another negative impact. So I suppose it's about managing our own expectations so that we don't become disappointed if the goalposts do move. Have you got anything you can say around that?
Yeah, I think there's no absolutes in this, is there? But we're moving in the right direction and keep focusing on that. You know, we are coming out of it. But you know, maybe it be a couple of weeks later at each stage or whatever. But what I would say, and this might sound a little bit weird, but I'm going to say it anyway, is we are going to emerge from this different people than we were when we went in. I would imagine there's very few, if any, people that will come out exactly the same. So I would say start thinking about who you want to be as you're coming out. So it doesn't really matter, you know, when that is, but we're moving along. So what, 3 months time, 4 months time, what can you start doing now to get you into the position you want to be when we're out of this? What are you going to do? What do you want? And I would think a lot of people have perhaps asked themselves that question during the lockdown, gone deep inside and had a look, but maybe some people haven't. So maybe now the end is in sight, have a think about that. And one of the other things I'll say, if there's anything that you would say you've been prevented from doing because of lockdown, ask yourself, is that actually true? Or are we going to be coming out of the lockdown and the restrictions? And you're then going to perhaps be thinking of other reasons why you're not doing what you want to do. So yeah, I would ask some challenging questions, I think, of ourselves.
So an invitation for internal inquiry about who we want to be and how we want to be as we emerge into the new normal, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, because I think we must have seen sides of ourselves that we'd either forgotten about, didn't know were there, you know, and some of that's going to be really positive, you know. that some of the strength that we've got, or some of the skills, you know, that we'd forgotten about or didn't realise we had, but also some sides of our personality or traits, I guess, that we perhaps don't really like or don't want to identify with. But all of those things make us who we are, and all of those elements are there for a reason, and we can learn from them. So I'd say whatever, you know, has come up for you during the lockdown and the restrictions, just have a look and explore it. And if there's something you want to do differently or change, then start that transition now. Would be my on it.
Thank you. Yeah, because we all have that power to make those changes, don't we? Question our reality, question our way of being, question our jobs, what's important to us, and make those changes.
Yeah. Because anything we want in life is there. We just put restrictions in the way. We've had restrictions put in our way now, and they're going to be lifted. So when those restrictions are lifted, can we set ourselves up so we remove our own restrictions?
Which are all just in there.
Yep. Which we've all got. You know, you think you might have got rid of some of them, and then you think, there's another one. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't have them.
Yes, it's part of being human to doubt ourselves and put barriers in the way, artificial barriers usually. Lovely, thank you for that, Kate. So before we end, is there anything else you would like to offer at all?
I just want to say it's been lovely. It's been lovely chatting, and I just hope that it's helped people to start having a serious think about, not even a serious think, but just to consider the change and the transition that is coming. Just be aware of it and use it for benefit, because I don't think anyone's enjoyed the last year on the whole. Really, it's taken away quite a lot of. It has taken away a lot of our freedom. So if we can turn that into a positive by using the transition period as we come back to make things as we'd like them, then that will be wonderful.
Yeah. Be the change you want to see in the world comes to mind.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that mindful awareness of what's going on, what we need, what the people around us need, have that compassion, flexibility, patience, and communication is key to say what's true for us and listen to what's true for others.
Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, Kate. It's been lovely to chat. Thank you for your time. And folks, if you'd like to connect with Kate, it's OptimumYou.co.uk. Have I got that right, Kate?
You have indeed. Thank you, Paul.
Wonderful. So coaching, NLP, mind-body healing, possibly even crystal work going forward. Who knows?
I'm crystal water at the minute, which is proving quite interesting. Energy boost from just drinking water.
Wonderful.
As I say,
cleansing stuff. Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. So I'm going to pop you back into the green room behind the scenes. If you need to get off, that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, I'll be with you in a few minutes. But thank you again for being with us and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you for asking me on. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, Paul. Take care. Bye.
Great stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to pop them in the comments and I will pass them on to Kate and she may answer them. I'm putting words in her mouth here. I'm not promising that she will, but I imagine she would be happy to answer any questions that you have or any concerns that this has raised for you around how we navigate the route out of lockdown. So hope you found that useful. If you're enjoying the Hive and you would like to contribute to make it sustainable, then please head to buymeacoffee.com/thrivehive. You can drop me £3 for a virtual coffee, which I will not spend on coffee because I do not like coffee. I will probably spend it on banana loaf because I like banana loaf. Or you can also subscribe for £7 a month and get various discounts off mental health first aid courses and a lovely rosy glow from helping to support this community. And also do share the group with your friends, family, wider networks if you feel that they might benefit from being in here. So finally, that was part 1 of Kate Week. Part 2 of Kate Week is on Thursday at 8 p.m. And we've got Kate Sassinelli joining us to explain her recovery from panic disorder, anxiety and depression. Really inspiring story. Another lovely Kate to regale you with her wisdom and experiences. And yeah, it's I recommend you just have a listen to her. It could be very inspiring and educational as well. So I hope you're all well, folks. Take care of yourselves and those around you as you navigate this route out of lockdown and wherever that looks like for you. And hopefully see you on Thursday or whenever it may be. Take care. Bye-bye.